Let's go to line number 3 and say hello to the Minister of Advanced Education and Skills and the Status of Women. Joan Shea is also the member for Stephenville East, based in Georgia. I guess I'll be set straight if that's wrong now in 2 seconds. Hello, Minister Shea, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Patty. It's St. George's, Stephenville East, and I'm acting minister responsible for the status of women for a few weeks.
So I only got the acting part wrong.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Right.
I wanted to phone in today because of all the controversy and the calls and the discussion we're having regarding the incident in the House of Assembly yesterday and the Facebook. But I want to talk about it in more general terms about cyberbullying and what that means and some of the messages that government is trying to get out there through our Violence Prevention Initiative. And we've had our Violence Prevention Initiative now ongoing since we took over government in 2003. It actually started prior to that. And one of the messages that we try to get out there is the elimination of violence. We're trying to look at the elimination of violence, and we know that it requires a comprehensive response. So we know that we need to look at prevention and public education. And I'm kind of using this venue today as a means to do some of the public education, because one of the forms 2003 and prior to is what's known as the cyberbullying and what happens sometimes online.
You know, some of that, when we talk about the cyberbullying piece and we pay strict attention to how it affects kids and what the byproduct is and what the end results are, that's one thing. But it's, I think, certainly different from what went on with any potential death threats facing the Premier. Can we get to your policy or to your hope to engage and for people to understand cyberbullying, talk about the House for a second, go quick?
Yeah, what I wanted to talk about was sometimes a mob mentality exists and sometimes people join Facebook groups and then some people get on and make comments that are completely inappropriate or that, promote violence or say things that incite others towards violence, because you don't always know who's monitoring the sites and who's part of it and what they may be inclined to do. So what we would do in our, in certainly how we deal with the cyber safe girl is that we would say to children who are on the internet who go on to Facebook groups and see threats or issues of violence that we would advise them to come off that group, because it starts to support those statements if you're not called to task for it. One of the messages in our Violence Prevention Initiative, and everyone's probably seen the commercials on TV or heard them on the radio, is to take action against violence. So it's when you hear or see something that's threatening or intimidating to another person that you label it and you take action against it and say it's wrong.
Yeah, I understand all that, and I think if inside of any of this, if you're implying that Ms. Rogers condones violence against the Premier, I would be quick to take a task on that, because I think you and everyone in their right mind knows that she does not mean that. So the actions in the House yesterday, I think a legitimate question is to say, knowing that's true and knowing what we all know about Gerry Rogers, how dare anybody get up there and try and make her guilty by association when some crackpot offers an uninvited, ridiculous criminal comment to a group she just happens to be associated with because of a point and click of your mouse? Like, how can that even be construed as fair or anything to do with Gerry Rogers' personality and her character?
Well, first thing, I'd like for Gerry Rogers, if she purports so much that she's against violence, to take the action against it and say, I'm going to walk away from a site that threatens other individuals because that's inappropriate behavior. That's number one.
She spoke out against the violence piece. I had my own political views on why she could have had a bigger victory than she did yesterday. But at the end of the day, she does not condone the violence. Everybody knows that. Yet that was the chosen political strategy by your party. It blew up, I would say, quite severely in your face. So why even go down that road? I mean, what's the point you're trying to make here?
There's two issues. One is that cyberbullying is unacceptable, and that's part of our Violence Prevention Initiative. Back to Gerry Rogers. Number one, if she disagrees with it, she would come off the group. She has decided to stay on that group and use it as a freedom of expression. And I also think that if we look at the way we talk about freedom of expression in Canada, that you don't hide behind freedom of speech to threaten other individuals.
No, but she didn't.
But she is still saying today that she wants to remain part of that site because she's representing freedom of speech. Now, freedom of speech can go on policies and on political activity and decisions of government. It crosses the line when it threatens another person.
And I'll give you that much, except for the fact that she didn't say any of those things. So it's an opportunity to play partisan politics, to besmirch a person's reputation or character guilty by association. You know full well that it's simply not fair. Like, It just isn't. There's no way to ever go down the road that's convince anybody that it is. So when she steps up and she says, you know what, I do not condone the violence. I think it has no place in our political arena. It has no place in the sane, rational, immature society. Other than that, this is just a bit of grandstanding by her, just like it is by you guys, right?
Petty, we wouldn't accept our students wanting to be on sites that promote violence. And in saying that, it's no good to say either if there's a fight in the schoolyard that, because you're not the one having the fight, but you're the one standing on the sideline supporting it and promoting it and watching it happen, that, that somehow you're not supporting the violence.
But once again, there's a difference there. She said she didn't see the site, though, Minister Shea. If she didn't see the post, then it's hard to draw the analogy that someone was watching a schoolyard racket. And I agree there. When the girls got flicked in the ditch out wherever that was, Shearstown maybe, when that happened, those standing by are equally guilty in my mind, because they're the reason that fueled the mob mentality, and they fueled the fire. Right here, Gerry Rogers said she didn't see it. So guilty by association here is flimsy at best, and gutter politics at worst. And
fair enough, if she was put on that site unbeknownst to her. Today it's a different story. Today she has said she's on the site, she wants to be on the site, she uses it and sees it as freedom of speech. That is wrong. And that's exactly my point on this. We're talking about violence prevention. We have dealt with this extensively through government. There's a whole prevention piece. There's education. And that if we think that letting people go on Facebook sites that promote violence, and you know what, fair enough, they may be on it unknowingly, but once it's brought to your attention, you don't hide behind it and say it's freedom of speech. It's wrong to promote violence in our society.
Yeah, I think I've been fairly clear and fair to all sides. Well, so far as my opinion goes, I think that's political grandstanding, and I think that's why she's doing it. She doesn't want to be viewed as someone who capitulated to Tory bullying, as she would put it. But if I ask you this question straight up, do you think Gerry Rogers condones violence against anybody, including the Premier?
I think that if Gerry Rogers wants... No.
It's a very simple question, Minister Shea, with all due respect. Do you think Gerry Rogers condones or promotes violence against anyone, including the Premier?
I think Gerry Rogers needs to line up her actions with her words.
Association on a Facebook group means...
You're going to want to hide behind freedom of speech when people are threatening the lives of another person. And you call that freedom of speech, you're putting your actions out there. If that was any other case and there's violence and someone being threatened, we would expect other individuals, if they weren't politicians, if they were our students or anyone else, to dissociate themselves with those comments and those sites. We would absolutely expect it.
Is it appropriate behavior also of the Speaker to consider this in contempt of the House and have her escorted out based on a refusal to apologize upon being asked 3 times? Or is it right for everyone? And I think the vast majority of the consensus today is that there was partisan approach by Speaker Wiseman, and it was all perpetuated by a point of privilege which may or may not even fall inside the regulations and the authority that the Speaker has.
Well, I'm not going to talk about the Speaker's ruling. That's certainly within his purview, and it's not for me to get out and criticise it publicly or to support it. It is what it is. We're in the House. We support it. My call today is simply to say that violence prevention is a very important issue in Newfoundland and Labrador, and that cyberbullying is part of it. And if people in general are out there on sites that are threatening the lives of other people, whether it's political or for other views, that we don't accept that behaviour, we consider it wrong, and we expect people to take action against violence and dissociate themselves from such sites. Gerry Rogers has chosen not to do so.
Do you think it's inappropriate? Now, I know social media, upon its explosion on the political scene, it was a way to engage the voter, a way to get your message through. Do you think it's just dodgy, dicey ground for MHAs to be involved in these Facebook groups, and that's for all partisan stripe? Facebook is one thing, because you're really at the mercy of those members of the group who you may or may not see their posts. Twitter, I think everyone's on their own. You get to navigate and manage who you follow, so you can't be associated with someone you don't want to. You get to control your own words and actions, very much so on Twitter. Do you think it's a reasonable approach even beyond these Facebook groups, knowing that you could indeed be caught in a predicament, just like Ms. Rogers, you yourself could indeed be caught in the same crossfire?
Yeah, Paddy, the whole social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or God knows what's going to come, beyond this, is a very different tool for politics. And when I entered politics in 2003, I don't know, maybe Facebook existed then, I don't know when it actually came in. Twitter was certainly unheard of. Went through the elections in 03, 07, and even 11, which wasn't that long ago. It was there, but it certainly has, seemed to advance since then. And whether we're talking politics or whether we're talking bullying in general or whether we're talking how teachers control the classrooms or what goes on in the schoolyard or what goes on outside the schoolyard, social media has brought about a form of communication that is new to us. And it has also provided a forum. Unlike having to speak to somebody face to face, it provides a forum where you can set up a name that, you can go in and set up a Facebook site or a Twitter site and keep yourself unidentified. And you can throw out something you can't do face-to-face to people. It has opened up all new avenues to us, and it's very different. Now, young people are probably far more comfortable with it, probably than some other people, say like myself. But it has opened up new avenues. But I can tell you there's more bullying and intimidation that happens through the social media than would ever happen if we sat down face-to-face and spoke to people. But it's new to us. It's something different, and it can be a very positive avenue of communication, but unfortunately some people take it to the extreme like they would in very different venues, I suppose, of communication, and sometimes it can be extremely intimidating.
Just quickly before we wrap up and go to the break, Minister Shea, how many threats have been made at the Premier? How many are being investigated by the RNC?
Oh, I don't have that information.
Okay, I was just curious, because we do know there's some been lobbed out there, so I was just curious if we knew exactly what was going on.
No, I don't know the exact number of the threats, but I do know, just from basically being in politics, that sometimes people, send messages and whatever, not necessarily to the Premier, to others as well, that are somewhat intimidating and probably very threatening.
Happens on when you're a talk show host too, I guarantee.
Yeah, I know sometimes, but that's my point. Like, people would not probably do that face to face, but they feel very bold sometimes when they're on the old Twitter box.
I appreciate your time today, Mr. Shea. Stay in touch.
Thank you, Patty.
All the best. Bye-bye.